Hello everybody, this is Santiago Ray. I'm a character artist here at Opposite Visuals, and today we'll be showing you how we created this awesome tool that we use to rig the armor titan for the short. So yeah, let's get right into it. As you can see, first things first, we created this HDA that would make our lives easier, so we can copy it and drop it in any of the scenes with the same configuration each time, ready to be used. And you can see that it is very well organized. It has its own kind of categories here. You can change anything here, so it's easy for the animators to see what they're doing. If we enter the HDA, you can see that it's divided in two parts. First, let's talk about the one on the left. That is the setup for the one on the right. Okay, we start this one by importing the geometry of the Titan. We need to rescale it to match the real scale. Once we do that, we start adding our joints. You can see that we just need one half of the body because we are mirroring the rest of it later down below. We are using a skeleton, oh my bad, skeleton node like this one that lets you come here and just start creating different kind of joints. So yeah, just like that, we created all of these joints right here that go along the Titan. As you can see, we later mirrored all of the joints that needed to be mirrored, like the ones on the eye, the arm, the legs, and starting doing the process that will help us get the weights on our geometry. First, we're gonna add a bone capture lines node right here, like this one. Okay. What we wanted to do is have both separate. This is one big important step. At the end of the day, to control the Titan, we want two separate instances between what's gonna be the skeleton, so this right here, and what's gonna be the geometry, this right here. But of course, this geometry doesn't come with all the necessary data. For example, all the weights for the skeleton to control. So you'll see that we first are gonna do what's called weight painting. In order to get to the weight paint, first we're gonna have to follow a couple of steps right here. First of all, we're gonna need this TED embed node that what's gonna do, it's gonna grab the geometry that we imported and it's gonna decimate it, let's say, to a point that it's comfortable, the program is comfortable, just to grab the general information of the shapes. So once we drop the next node that's called bone capture bioharmonic, it can grab that information, distribute all the weights between the joints that we already have. So this node right here is gonna contain the points that we need. For example, all the joints that we created earlier, we mirrored it, we created the bone capture lines, so it will help with the bone capture bioharmonic. We drop it down the TED embed. So now we have this information. The bone capture bioharmonics is gonna do its thing, and as you can see, it gives each joint more or less of an average of how the weights are gonna be. We later are gonna be doing some tweaking of this, but this is just the first step, let's say the estimation of how it's gonna be. Okay, as I said previously, we need first two things: both skeleton and geometry. We're gonna follow down the skeleton route and see. Once we have the skeleton mirror, we're gonna drop a rig pose node, so this is gonna help us later down below to see how the pose is coming up. Right here in the pose, I think this is gonna help us move the skeleton and see how it's gonna be working with the weights that we are having right now. We're gonna need, we use this node that's called rig stash pose, so we can have the attribute name rest transform that is gonna be essential down the line. And lastly, we're gonna have a rope output so we can export the skeleton information. This is very important. We're gonna have it stored Titan armor underscore rig skeleton. So it's important to save it as a skeleton so we can know that we have the information in here. And continuing with the geometry part of the tree, once we have the bone capture bioharmonics, we go down to the weight painting. This is a node called capture layer paint. It's gonna take those joints that we created, let us paint and modify individually each one of the weights. For example, if we grab right here head, we're gonna see in white. I can see it in white right here because if you go to visualize layer, this is gonna be visualize mode, my bad. I think that by default is gonna be infrared, and right here in visualize it's gonna be all capture regions, but we're really not sure what we are painting right now. It's a lot of colors, so we want to be just select a capture region, and for me it's easier if we go to black body, so we have only color in the space that we are modifying right now. So as you can see, our head joint, that body away, we are naming in here. As we add the joints, it's super important to name those joints, especially the ones that are going to be mirrored, to have some point of reference. For example, on my skeleton, every joint that is going to be mirrored starts with L underscore and the name of the joint, so we can quickly find the ones on the left and the ones on the right. Head, joint. This is basically rigging 101, how to create a skeleton and how to name those parts. We're gonna have a hip, spine 1, spine 2, spine 3, neck, shoulder, arms, all the fingers. It was really important for us to have all the little details on the fingers. So yeah, we can have all that information in here, so we see each individual part. For example, I don't know, left middle finger 2, we can see in here that it's being modified by this way. Okay, so one thing that we encountered during this project was that the armor part, let me just see this node right here, the bone deform is gonna be super important to see the final result of how everything's getting deformed. So yeah, program think. Okay, so yeah, one thing that we encounter is that if we did the painting separately for the flesh part and the armored part, some of the parts were just not gonna work on the rig properly. Let me show you what I'm talking about. If the, to this thing right here, okay, let it think again. Okay, we created here something that would help us transferring all the weights that were down on the flesh parts up to the armor parts, because if there were individual parts, yeah, it would create this thing. Let me show you. Let me disable this attribute transfer right here, and let's say we want an extreme pose. Let's say this right here where the spine is all twisted up. You can see that without the transferring of those weights, the both the armor and the flesh would be colliding. It would create all sorts of weird stuff, and it's way easier if we just painted one thing, for example the flesh, and it just that weight you could transfer it to a bigger layer that is the armor. So what we are doing here essentially is basically giving that armor the same attribute that the flesh has. So if I enable this again, you can see that none of the weird thing is happening. So let me restart this, clear. Okay. Well, yeah, that's one thing that we find out down the line, because we were doing a lot of the weight painting both on the flesh and the armor, but it was very time consuming, so this one saved us a lot of time. This is basically grabbing both the parts that are named, because we have on this basically not the things that are armor and the things that are called armor. It's armor and not armor on the name. We are subdividing the flesh parts that we are wanting to be transferred. This subdivide is basically so the painting, the weights are transferred a little bit smoother. You can see that everything more smooth in here. And in here on the attribute transfer, you can say that we are giving the armor in here all of the attributes except these ones right here. None of the primitives, we don't need those. We are leaving the UVs, normal, and CD. So yeah, right here we are coloring again. We are bringing all the things together with merge, both the flesh with all the weight paints corrected and the armor in here with the transferred attributes. And we are, let's wait, we are storing it away with another raw geometry output. This time we are saving it as Titan Armor Rig Geometry. So we are having both BGO files called Rig Geometry and Rig Skeleton. We can have those things separate down the line. Okay, now to the second part of this video that will show you how we created this. That is basically the controls of the rig, because right now the Titan is, let's say, functioning. If we come here and we grab this rig pose, messing it around, you can see that the rig is functioning. But these are not our conventional, let's say, rigging controls. We need something that an animator could use with much more ease, and it's a little bit more visual, something that it's a little bit more appealing. So we need to create some controls. This is where step 2 is coming here, and we are creating another HDA in order to have these 3 outputs. This is very important because right here, this is what's going on. We have 2 files. We are importing the BGO files that we were storing right here on step 1, both the geometry and the skeleton. We are importing those. So we have 1 output going just to geometry and 2 outputs for the skeleton. We're gonna need 2 of these because we have 1 rest skeleton in here and another one that's gonna be the one that we are gonna animate. So once we have this all set up with our 3 outputs, we're gonna work basically with the third one, with the animation output. So how did we create the controls? Okay, so we basically need our joints, the joints that we created. We're gonna export those right here, and we're gonna delete some of those. We don't need we need to create new ones that will help us control the entirety, because right now our main bone is the hip and we want another bone to be controlled, to control the whole rig. So we are adding here on the another skeleton node. We are adding a couple of controlled nodes for us to have an easier time. For example, this Armor Titan main skeleton joint, that is gonna be controlling the whole thing. And right here, as you can see, we created a bone that's gonna help us control the feet later on. We created left heel and left foot end. Basically create this line right here so we can control the position of the feet a bit easier and not be moving around the ankle and having all those controls be cluttered. So yeah, we're gonna parent this these joints right here. We're gonna mirror the ones that we deleted. And right here, it's where our main controls start to take shape. So we're gonna delete all the, we're gonna go by parts, okay? We're basically doing the same thing over and over. In the end, we have the controls that we need. For example, in this part, we're just creating the main controls of the rig. In order to do that, we need to delete every joint that we do not whoa. Right here, we're gonna delete every joint that we do not want to see. For example, all the hands, all the head, the legs. We do not want to see those for the main controls. We just want both the control, the main control, and the heels. And the hips, because these are right now the main controls, and then we're gonna later parent things up in here. We're gonna create this parent joint node. We're gonna give the heel, we're gonna connect the heel to the main thing, so basically this connection right here. Again, right, rig stash post is important to have the rest transform node, attribute in here, and our most important node is the attach joint geometry. This node will basically grab the joints that we have right here, for example, the heel, the main, hip and spine one, and we're gonna create a bunch of geometry. In this case, we're creating splines, circle splines, giving it names, and basically telling them I want the armor titan main joint to have the main control. If we go down to names, we can see that this circle right here is named main control with the name node. We're gonna merge them, add it in here, and create all the parenting that we need for these circles to be the ones that are controlling the joints, so we don't go clicking on these little tiny buttons every time, so the animator can just easily grab these big circles right here and control those. Okay, right here we have a visibility node. Don't this is just for visibility purposes. The important thing right here is this rig post at the end, because it's basically what's gonna help us transfer all this information that we are creating right here up to this HDA that we're gonna have with all these controls that we see right here. As you can see, all our controls in here, or excuse me, the ones that we need, are highlighted in green because we are promoting these controls down to these controls right here. We are doing these things to the, if we go down here to assets, when we created firstly this HDA, if we go down to the armored Titan rig asset properties, right here is where our tool is gonna take shape. Right here you can create, well, here in the parameters tab, because this one by default, if we go down to the parameters tab, you'll see that right here we can create this existing parameters tab and create our own tool with the parameters that we want. Okay, so basically if we want right here on our main controls, we're doing the main controls. We go down, for example, I created this main control tab. You can see that the main rotate, main translate are all part of this rig pose right here. If we go down to the here, armor titan main, this main translate is basically it, this one right here. If we click and drag right here to the parameter, I'm not gonna do it right now because it will collide with the already existing options, but basically we'll click and drag every parameter that we need to control on a higher hierarchy. Let's say if you wanted that control to be right here ready for the animator, this is where you want the controls to be. So you just click and drag, create your own tool right here, organize it, name it. This is all done by hand, creating tiny folders that are more visible to the animator. It's gonna be an easier job for them if you organize things a little bit better. If we continue down the line, you will see that the process right here repeats. Finally, let me say that once we finish creating all the controls in here with the attached joint geometry and the circles that we need, or well, any kind of geometry or spline that we need, and have it done here in the right pose, we're gonna keep building on the skeleton with these skeleton blend controls, where we are going to be taking the already existing skeleton and mixing with the rig pose right here with our custom controls. So if you go down here, you can see that we applied the same process for the main controls, but this time, for example, for the knees. If we go down here, we deleted every other joint that we did not need for the controls, except for the leg, knee, and ankle. You can see that we created this reverse foot setup in here. This is a little bit more complex, but we need the character to have a reverse foot setup. So basically, once the Titan steps, the feet could move correctly. So we are, instead of the knees, let's just go first to the reverse foot. We'll just grab all these joints that we need, create different parenting. Here we delete all the parenting, reparent everything, so we have a reverse foot setup in which the main bone is right here on the heel and it goes down to the foot end, and then it goes down to the ball, it controls the finger, and then to the ankle. We basically created here a switch that let us choose between two different configurations of reverse foot. We'll show you later what this is. We are of course mirroring everything It's super important to name everything with correctly so it doesn't break things. So it detects that everything it starts with L underscore, and then it translates that to underscore. And again, once again, skeleton blend. We are blending the previous skeleton blend that we have here with the heels down here with the new skeleton that we are creating for the food. Right here you can see that we deleted the heel. Again, rig stash post for that rest transform attribute. And as you can see, we are already dropping the circles, naming them. These, for examples, are named roll control and are attached down to the foot end and the ball of the feet. Once again, oh, sorry, we created tiny controls for each individual finger of the foot. Again, we're deleting more joints and having again the rig post that we need with all these custom controls that we are later updating with the skeleton blend node. Right here we are creating the knees. Again, leaving all the parents behind. Oh my god, that sounded horrible. We are just cutting all the parenting from the knees and recreating everything with just by ourselves, with later down the line with the IK chain nodes. But as you can see in here, the attach geo right here, we didn't use a circle to control it this time. We used a box, so it was easier for us to control the direction of the knees. We're using an IK type of control. So you can see, let me just bring the Titan here. Okay. So you can see that right here, each of these cubes are controlling the direction of the knees. And thanks to this node right here, the IK chain is gonna know which joint is the root name. Is the root, the mid, and the tip. For example, leg, knee, and ankle. It just simply works really well once you have everything named down correctly. Again, our skeleton blend node to update the controls. Skeleton blend knee. This one is for the reverse toe right here, and this one is for the cube right here that we created with this attached joint right here. We are now doing spine and head controls. Again, deleting everything that we don't need and leaving the head and spine that we want to control. Attach joint geometry. You can see that the pattern here repeats. Again, circles, naming each one with the control that I want to control, and parenting each of the joints with the correct circle will just control those. You can have here the rig pose, and again the cycle continues. Shoulder controls, delete everything that we don't need except for the shoulders. Attach joint geo, this time it says It's a square right there. Rig pose. Just remember that each of these rig poses that we are adding at the end of each section are the ones that are gonna be controlling the main rig with our edit asset properties in here. So once we have, for example, the spine and head, this rig pose right here, let's go to the neck. And for example, we don't want any translate for the neck, we just want the rotation. So in here you can see that we have the, I think it's this one, head main rotation. Just grab the rotate, click and drag right here, and just build up on the tool itself, so you have everything that you want to control. So here it's again the same for the shoulders, elbows. We are using IK elbow. I think we didn't use the IK node like we used for the chains because we wanted another kind of skeleton for the Titan. So we ended up not going the IK, how was it called? IK chain node. So it's basically just another attached joint, rig pose, and it just works. IK elbows and wrist, again, creating this right here. And finally, all the little fingers for the hand. We once again have the skeleton blend node. We have finally a full on skeleton that we can control. And once that we promote everything using our rig poses, very important, because these rig poses right here are gonna store the custom controls that we created. We're gonna have all of these controls that are easily accessible for our animators to use for animation. Yeah, I think that's everything. That's basically how we created this tool. And the great thing about it is that you can customize anything right here. You just change the geometry that you want to rig, you change the joints, do a little bit of tweaking on the weight painting. Again, export both things, both the geometry with the correct weights, the skeleton, and with this HDA, again, you can create the controls with the same pattern that I show you. So basically, again, delete the joints that you are not gonna use, reparent them as you wish, attach joint geo with a couple of circles or geometry that you want the controls to show. One final rig pose for the controls to be promoted with the edit asset parameters right here. And one final skeleton blend node so you can build on these skeletons. Like you build first the main, then the knees, reverse foot, spine. You go on building this skeleton with the controls so you can finally have this final tool that we have right here with all the controls working. The good thing is that once you are promoting stuff here on the rig pose, for example, I don't know, I just want this thumb right here. It automatically took us there. It's, I think, a thumb 2. The good thing is that if we just leave this parameter right here without being locked, because if you right click you can unlock parameter, like for example in here, if I click again on this, you can see that right now I can use the different parameters right here on the x axis and the y axis. I don't know why would you want to do that, but right here, if you unlock the parameters right here, you click away, you click again, you'll only have the correct axis to work on. And as you can see, this parameter right here is gonna be the one that's gonna be changing. If we go, for example, right here to the arm sections, finger, and the thumb, you can see that this right here is changing with the tool I already did. Oh, this one. If we go to the thumb translate, you can see that I already made a range from -1 to 1, so you can tweak some things. Oh, right here, thumb rotate. Oh, it's right here, sorry. From 0 to 100. It's the thumb to rotate. Thumb to rotate, as you can see here. 1 to 100. So you can have any parameter in there that you want specifically the animator to have controlled. So yeah, that's the tutorial, and I really hope you enjoyed and learned something from it. So yeah, thank you.